Welcome to another deep dive. We're going to be listening in as meteors streak through the atmosphere.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we'll be checking out how to detect these meteor radio echoes.
Neat.
Using some pretty affordable tech, an RTL SDR USB dongle.
Yeah, that's one of the really remarkable things about this whole thing is how accessible it makes radio astronomy.
Right.
Like, you don't have to have some big, expensive observatory setup.
Yeah.
You can basically turn your computer into a mini observatory
Wow.
for like $15.
That's amazing.
And it's all thanks to like open source technology and people like Eric Fry who, figured out how to repurpose these TV tuners.
That's really cool.
Yeah, to receive these radio signals and just made that knowledge available to everyone.
So before we get too far into this, can you maybe explain the science behind these meteor radio echoes? What exactly are they?
So picture a meteor like blazing through the atmosphere.
Okay.
And the friction from that
Yeah.
creates an ionized trail of charged particles.
No.
And that trail acts like a mirror. It reflects radio waves.
Huh. Like a temporary radio beacon almost.
Yeah, exactly. As the meteor streaks across the sky.
So we're basically eavesdropping on these meteors.
Yeah, pretty much.
As they bounce these radio waves back to Earth.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm guessing there's more than one way these reflections can happen, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Well-
There's two main ways, backscatter and forward scatter.
Okay, so what's the difference between backscatter and forward scatter?
Okay, so think of backscatter like shining a flashlight at a mirror.
Okay.
You see the light bounce straight back to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when the radio signal is reflected directly back to the transmitter.
All right, that makes sense.
With forward scatter, the radio waves are reflected forward to a receiver that's farther away. So it's like the mirror's bouncing the beam to someone standing across the room.
Gotcha.
And this forward scatter method, that's what we're going to be diving deep into today.
Okay, so the signals are taking a detour off the meteor's trail before reaching us.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is where the RTL SDR dongle comes in.
Right. It can pick up these faint signals, basically, because it's a repurposed TV tuner.
Okay.
And it can receive a wide range of these radio signals.
But I imagine not all frequencies are good for meteor detection, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's really important to choose the right frequency.
Okay.
It's kind of like tuning your radio to find that clear station.
Mm-hmm.
If you go too low, there's interference from the Earth's ionosphere.
Which is?
Oh, it's that layer of charged particles high up in our atmosphere.
Gotcha.
And if the frequency is too high, the signals are just too weak.
Mm.
You just won't detect many meteors.
So there's got to be a sweet spot.
Yeah, exactly. The Goldilocks zone for meteor radio echoes.
I like that.
And it turns out to be between 40 and 70 megahertz.
Okay, so it's all about finding that balance, strong signal, minimal interference.
Uh-huh.
Now, I hear there's a bit of an unlikely hero in this story
Oh.
when it comes to the source of these radio signals, and it comes from Canada.
Oh, right. You're talking about those analog TV transmitters.
Yeah, specifically CHBX TV.
Yeah, up in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario.
So analog TV seems like a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Why are those signals so valuable for detecting meteors?
Well, it turns out that digital TV signals just aren't as good.
Mm.
They don't have that strong carrier signal that the analog ones had.
Okay.
But in Canada, some of these analog signals are still going strong.
Huh.
And CHBX TV broadcasts with 100 kilowatts of power.
Wow.
It covers a huge area, even into the U.S.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I'm looking at this coverage map here.
Yeah.
Figure 3 from the paper, and it really is a massive area that this signal covers.
Yeah, it's amazing how these signals meant for TV,
Yeah.
they become these valuable tools for radio astronomy.
Yeah, by accident.
Right.
That's pretty cool. So for anyone who lives within that coverage area, what would they need to actually build a system to detect these meteor echoes?
Well, the author of this paper, he describes using a pretty simple setup.
Yeah.
He used a 5-element Yagi antenna.
Which is?
Oh, like a classic TV antenna,
Gotcha.
And he pointed it towards Canada to pick up those CHBX TV signals.
Okay.
Then he connected the RTL SBR dongle
Mm-hmm.
and used software like SDR Strag and Arduo to process the data.
Huh. So it's like a DIY science project
Yeah, pretty much.
that anyone with the right equipment and a little bit of know-how could try out.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need a fancy lab to listen to these meteors.
It's really cool.
It's really all about the accessibility of this kind of science.
Now, he also mentioned using a preamplifier.
Right.
What does that do?
So the preamplifier basically boosts the weak signals coming from the antenna. before they reach the dongle.
Okay.
It makes them easier to detect.
So it's all about maximizing the sensitivity to catch these signals.
Yeah, exactly.
I also understand that the author didn't stop at just building his own setup.
Uh-huh.
He created a website called livemeteors.com.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
So livemeteors.com is this amazing website where anyone can listen to these meteor echoes in real time.
Oh, wow.
It's like opening a window into this hidden world.
That's awesome. I imagine there's a lot of work behind the scenes, though,
Oh, yeah,
to
definitely.
keep that stream going.
He uses software like OBS for screen capture
Yeah.
and a media server for streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all running continuously, so it's quite a technical challenge to keep it all going.
Yeah, but it sounds like an amazing initiative
Yeah, it really is.
to share these experiences with the world.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing that we can, like, actually listen to these meteors.
Yeah.
But what can we actually learn from these echoes? Like, beyond just knowing that they exist.
Oh, they actually carry a lot of information about the meteors themselves.
Okay.
By analyzing them, we can figure out things like their size, their speed, composition, even their trajectory.
Huh. So it's like deciphering a code
Yeah, kind of.
hidden in these radio waves.
Exactly. We look at things like how long the echo lasts,
Okay.
how strong it is, and even like subtle shifts in the frequency.
Now, those frequency shifts, that's the Doppler effect, right?
You got it.
Like when a siren passes by and the pitch changes.
Exactly. That same effect applies to radio waves, too.
Okay.
So as the meteor moves, its trail is moving relative to us,
Mm-hmm.
and that causes the frequency of the reflected waves to shift.
So by measuring that shift, we can tell how fast the meteor's going.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
And it's not just about speed.
Oh, okay.
We can also use the Doppler shifts to figure out the meteor's trajectory.
Oh, wow. So like the angle it's coming in at?
Yeah, and we can even tell if it breaks apart,
Huh. So it's like having a radar system.
pretty much.
But for meteors, that reveals their movements.
Yeah, and this information helps us understand the bigger picture
Okay.
about where these meteoroids come from, how they're distributed in space, and, what kind of risk they might pose.
Right. Like to satellites or even spacecraft.
Exactly. Even a tiny one can cause damage if it hits something going fast enough.
So it's not just about curiosity, it's about safety too.
Right? The more we know, the better we can predict and maybe prevent those risks.
Now, I remember reading in the paper about different types of echoes.
Uh-huh.
Something about underdense and overdense meteors.
Yeah, so that refers to how dense the ionized trail is.
Okay.
Under dense meteors, they create these trails that are really thin and they disappear quickly. So their echoes are really short, like a second or two.
Oh, so those are the quick pings you hear sometimes.
Exactly, like a puff of smoke that vanishes quickly.
Gotcha. And overdense meteors.
Those make longer lasting echoes,
Okay.
sometimes even minutes long.
Wow.
Their trails are much denser, so they take longer to break down.
So those are the longer, more sustained sounds on livemeteors.com.
Right, like a thick cloud of smoke that hangs around.
So this difference in how long the echo lasts, it has to do with how the radio waves interact with the trail.
Exactly.
With underdense trails, they pass through easily,
Yeah,
but with overdense trails, they get trapped and bounce around more.
exactly. That's why the echoes last longer.
So it's like a quick reflection versus light bouncing around inside a crystal ball.
I like that. That's a great way to put it.
So by looking at how long the echo lasts, we can figure out the density of the trail, and that tells us about the size of the meteoroid itself.
Right, it's all connected.
It's amazing how much we can learn just from these echoes.
It is. We can tell their speed, trajectory, size, and even density.
And it's all done remotely.
Yeah, we're using radio waves to probe the cosmos.
It's like we have this sixth sense, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We're perceiving things beyond what we can see with our
That's
eyes.
pretty amazing. And you know what else is cool?
What's that?
Citizen science projects like livemeteors.com. They're really playing an important role in this research.
Yeah, because anyone can contribute, right?
Exactly. People with these simple, affordable tools can be part of this global network of observers.
It's really democratizing science.
It really is.
Now, the paper also mentioned something about using multiple dongles at the same time. What's the benefit of doing that?
Well, with multiple dongles, you can essentially create a multi-frequency system.
Okay.
Each dongle is tuned to a slightly different frequency.
So it's like listening to several radio stations at once.
Yeah, and by comparing the signals from each dongle, you get a much more complete picture of what's happening.
So instead of just one perspective, you're getting multiple.
Right, and you can see how the echo changes across different frequencies. which can actually tell us about the composition of the meteoroid.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, different materials interact with radio waves differently.
Ah.
So by studying those variations, we can start to figure out what the meteoroid is made of.
So it's like a spectral analysis of the radio signature.
Exactly. And it also helps us get more accurate Doppler shift measurements. It means we can better understand the trajectory and velocity.
So it's like having multiple cameras on the same event.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
The more data we have, the more we can learn.
Absolutely. It's really amazing how much information we can get from these echoes.
It really is. Now, are there any other unusual sources of these radio signals besides the Canadian TV transmitters that can be used for this? Yeah. Are there any other kind of unusual sources that could work for this?
Well, the thing is, the radio spectrum is just full of signals.
Right.
And a lot of them, they're not even intentional. Some people just see them as like noise or interference. But with a bit of creativity, they can actually be useful for science.
So it's about like finding the signal in all that noise.
Exactly. Like one interesting idea is using radar systems.
Okay.
The ones that operate in the, VHF band.
Right, that sweet spot.
Exactly. Those radar systems, they send out these powerful pulses to detect things like aircraft or weather.
Right.
But those signals, they can also bounce off meteor trails.
Huh. So we could potentially just use those existing radar networks.
Yeah, we could piggyback on them.
That's pretty clever.
And since those radars cover such large areas, they could make a really big network for meteor observation.
But wouldn't it be hard to, like, pick out those faint meteor echoes from all the other stuff the radar is seeing?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like planes and stuff?
It would definitely take some sophisticated signal processing to filter out all that clutter and isolate the meteor echoes.
Okay.
But it's definitely something researchers are looking into.
It's cool how we can repurpose this technology for, like, something totally different than what it was designed for.
Yeah. It's like finding hidden treasure in plain sight.
It really shows the power of, different fields working together.
Oh, absolutely. Bringing together radio engineers and signal processing experts and astronomers.
Yeah.
And they can find these really innovative ways to use existing stuff.
Right. To do this cool new research.
Exactly.
Man, this has been really eye-opening.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It seems like with radio astronomy, it's not just about building bigger telescopes.
Right.
It's also about being creative with what we already have.
Yeah. Finding those clever solutions.
So where do you see this research going in the future? What are some of the big questions scientists are trying to answer?
Well, one of the main goals is to get a better understanding of meteoroids in general.
Okay.
Like how they're distributed, what their characteristics are. And by analyzing echoes from tons of meteors, we can build up this like detailed map of their orbits and sizes and densities.
Wow. So it's like a cosmic census of these meteors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it helps us understand where they come from and, the risks they might pose to spacecraft and even to Earth.
Yeah, because even a small one can do some serious damage.
Absolutely. So knowing more about them is really important.
You mentioned earlier how multi-frequency observations can help us figure out what meteoroids are made of.
Yeah.
Is that something that's like actively being researched?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a big area of research right now.
Okay.
By looking at how those echoes change at different frequencies, we can start to unlock those secrets about their chemical makeup.
That's amazing. It's like we can tell what they're made of just by listening to these radio waves.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's all thanks to the ingenuity of scientists and those subtle variations in the signals.
This has been a really mind-blowing deep dive.
I'm glad you think so.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that there's just so much more to discover in this field.
Absolutely. We've really only scratched the surface.
And with new technology always coming out and all the passion of both amateur and professional astronomers, the future looks bright for radio astronomy.
I couldn't agree more. And, the universe is full of wonders just waiting to be discovered.
Right.
So for all the listeners out there, just keep looking up, keep listening, and keep exploring.
And you never know what you might find.
Exactly. Happy listening, everyone.